الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله محمدا كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد وبعد. Alhamdulillah, we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was blessed us to have another chance to be together, and where we were meeting in one of the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with one of the greatest acts of worship, that is learning the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us to comprehend and digest this food for our soul and the direction that we need in this life, heading for the afterlife. I mean, we are still with the famous book Umdatu fil Fiqh, which we said is the classical work of Imam Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi, that he wrote this book basically to show you what is the basis of your religion in the shortest fashion. But we're bringing explanation from some of the ulama of Islam so that we can make sure that we break it down and that we have a type of ability to get the message across, So, inshallah ta'ala, we plan on going back to review some of the material from yesterday, and then we'll move forward ta'ala, as we were with Kitab al-Nikah, the book of marriage. So, the first thing we mentioned yesterday was the word nikah. Linguistically, it has the meaning that includes when something enters or intertwines. Like they mentioned the fact and example of two trees. If you put two trees together, meaning at the roots, and you plant them, then this word, nikahtu shajara, we have put two trees together in the ground. We have, put them, we're trying to breed two trees. The same thing this word nikah is used for when you try to bring two people together in a union of marriage. So the ulama, they said that the word nikah, yutlaqu ala al-aqd wal-jima'. It is used to describe the entering of two people into an agreement of marriage, and it is also used to mean the word sexual intercourse, jima'. Because when a person makes jima', intercourse, he has to enter the lady. They have to join body parts. So this is why the word nikah is used in two fashions. One, as it relates to entering something, in general, whether or twining or combining something together in general, or as it relates to entering two parts or two things, two people together in the case either of a contract of marriage in this case, or as it relates to the private parts being made lawful for those two people in the relationship. Yesterday we mentioned that this issue of nikah is an issue that has to be proven according to the Sharia, the Quran, and the Sunnah. So yesterday we mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned in the hadith that is collected by Imam at-Tirmidhi that the marriage is one of the sunan al-mursaleen, one of the actions of all of the prophets and messengers. One of the actions of all of the prophets and messengers. And in the hadith he mentioned al-haya'u, yani modesty. And he also mentioned the issue of utur, yani a person wearing colognes or perfumes or oils. He also mentioned a person siwak, cleaning their mouth. And lastly, he mentioned nikah, marriage. It's from the four things that all of the prophets and messengers did. So we said this is the proof that marriage is from the religion because the prophet mentioned those four things, haya'u, yani modesty, and we don't want to just say shy, because that's a bad translation. But also the term haya'u means a person is shy or embarrassed or afraid to do something wrong, afraid to ruin his or her reputation. So this is why the Prophet said that al-haya'u shurba min al-iman. It is an action, it is a part of iman. It's part of your deen as a Muslim to care about your image, to care what's projected from you as it relates to your actions and statements. So Priscilla mentioned that. He mentioned the issue of putting on oils or some type of perfume. And then he mentioned cleaning the mouth and marriage. So this shows you that marriage is legislated from that perspective of that hadith, and it is the actions of all of the prophets and messengers. Then we also mentioned that there's a difference of opinion between the scholars whether or not marriage is something that you must do, whether or not marriage is something that's a recommendation, you are encouraged only, whether marriage is something that Allah made allowed for you rather than being encouraged. And then we said that the ulama mentioned that there were 5 categories for marriage. 5 categories. That it is an obligation for a person. It could be number 2, recommended for a person. It could be number 3, something that's just an open issue. It's allowed. You do it, not recommended, you do it, not binding on you. And then, of course, they said also marriage can be haram and marriage can be detested. So, inshallah wa ta'ala, we will explain that again, inshallah ta'ala. And then also, which one, how do you determine if the marriage is wajib, an obligation, or recommended? And how do you determine whether it's recommended or just something that Allah has given you allowance for? So we will mention that, inshallah wa ta'ala, and try to explain these principles. The first thing, we said again that the marriage is legislated from the Quran. One of the evidence to just show that marriage is part of our deen, Allah, He mentioned in Surah An-Nisa, فَانْكِحُوا مَا قَابَلَكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ, and marry, choose from the women of your choice. Methna wa thulatha wa ruba', 2, 3, or 4. When khiftum alla ta'dilu fawahidatan, and if you have a feeling or you are afraid that you won't be just to your wives, fawahidatan aw ma malakat aymanukum, then stay singly married to one lady. And then Allah said, or take your right hand possessed, which we don't have that anymore today. And that ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned it in the Quran, and it's a proof that marriage is from our religion. The second point, they use that marriage is from the religion, from the Sunnah, because that's the evidence that marriage is from our religion, from the Quran. The Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned the hadith of Ibn Mas'ud, and that Bukhari, Muslim, Sunnah Tirmidhi, and others. The Prophet he said, Ya ma'shar al-shabab, O you group of young men, man istata'a minkum al-ba'a falyatazawwaj, whosoever from amongst you has the ability to give the lady al-ba'a. And the ulama said al-ba'a here doesn't just mean to have sex. It carries that meaning. Just as the word nikah carries the meaning of sex or contract. Here the word al-ba'a in the hadith of the Prophet, it has the meaning of physical ability to have sex. But it also means the ability to give the lady the mahr, the sadaq, the marriage thing that you have to give her, which makes the body parts lawful. And they like to say the marriage gift. I don't like that, because it makes some deception and room for play when it comes time to give the lady that. But we understand the dowry in English, or the thing that you have to give the lady as a marriage property for the marriage. So that hadith where the Prophet ﷺ told the young men, whoso from amongst you have the ability to give the lady something and to be married, and the physical ability to have intercourse and live with the lady, then get married. That's a proof from the Sunnah. Marriage is from our deen. So those two, that ayah and that hadith, point number 1, هو دليل أصلي على أن الزواج من ديننا. This is the first basis to show marriage is from al-Islam. That ayah where Allah said, فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِنَ النِّسَاءِ, choose from the women of your choice. And then he mentioned to the rest of the ayah, that ayah is the first proof that marriage is from our deen. From the Sunnah, the Prophet ﷺ, he said to the young group of boys or men, young men, whosoever from amongst you has the physical ability along with the ability to give the lady something in marriage and to take care of her, then let him marry. So those two are the evidence for marriage being a part of our deen. Then you have the issue of al-ahkam al-khamsa takhlifiyya, 5 categories that marriage can fall under. And the ulama, they said, hasab al-shakhs, this depends on the individual, because we said there are 5. The first one is wajib. That means you have to do it. You have to do it. The term wajib means you have to, is binding. That's the first category of marriage. The second category, mustahab. Mustahab means it is liked for you to do it. It is encouraged. It's a recommendation, but it's not like the first one we said, wajib, where you have to, is binding. Else you'll be in trouble. The third category for marriage is that it is ma'adha, it is mubah. It is something that Allah allowed. It's not encouraged. It's not binding, but it's there. If you want to do it, it's allowed. It's okay for you. Allah has made it lawful. Then you have, yani, that fourth one is that it is, yani, haram. Haram. Marriage is haram for you. And we'll explain that. And then the fifth one is that it is makruha. It is detested. Detested. So an example of the first one, wajib. Let's make sure we understand wajib means that you have to do it. The ulama, they gave a definition to wajib. They said that wajib huwa it means if the person does it, he gets a reward. That's the first thing. If you do it, you reward it. That's the first encouragement. And the disparament to leave it is if you leave it, you'll be punished. So, wajib, if you do it, you get rewarded. The ajr, al-fa'il, the one who does it, he gets reward. The one who leaves it, the aqib tarakahu, the one who abandons it, he sets himself up for a punishment, penalty. So this is wajib. Wajib, if you do it, you get reward. And if you do it here, doesn't mean you have a choice to do it or not, meaning you have to do it. But on top of you being binded, Allah is going to reward you. But if you leave it, because it's binding on you, then you will be penalized. You will be punished. That's wajib. The second one, mustahab, comes from the word hub, love. Mustahab, you're seeking the love of Allah wa ta'ala. And so it's recommended that you do it, you choose it. The mustahab, if you do it, you're ajr fa'il. The one who does it, similarly to the one who is in the first category of binding, is wajib, they both get a reward. The one who is binding, he does it, he gets a reward. The one who is doing it out of recommendation only, he gets a reward. But on the flip side, if you leave it for the one it's recommended, then there's no penalty and there's no punishment for you. That's the one difference between the first one, wajib, and the second one, mustahab. Wajib, you have to do it. Number one. Number two, you get a reward for doing it. Number three, if you leave it off, you set yourself up for punishment, penalty from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As far as mustahab, the second one, then if you do it, you get a reward. You're encouraged, it's not binding. If you leave it, la shay alayk, there's nothing upon you. No penalty, no punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then you have that which is mubah. Mubah, ibaha means you're not encouraged, but it's there for you. And if you leave it, no problem. This is the difference between mustahab and mubah. Mubah, you encourage. You encourage. Mubah, allowed, it's okay for you, but nobody's encouraging you. Nobody's telling you, wow, if you do this, you know you're going to get that, third, and the other. You should do it, you know. It'll be a benefit. No, it's just there for you. If you need it, take it. And you still get rewarded. Similar to that which is mustahab. And if you leave it like mustahab, there's nothing on you, no punishment. Now as for the fourth one. Because we dealt with three. Wajib, that means you have to do it. And if you do the wajib, did you get a reward or not? You get a reward or not? You get a reward. Tayyib. And if you leave the wajib, or you punish, or there's no punishment. Punishment, yes, that's the first one. Second one, mustahab. It's not binding on you. You don't have to do it. But you're encouraged to do it or not encouraged to do it? You're encouraged to do it. You get a reward or you don't get a reward? You get a reward. And if you leave it, is there a penalty or punishment? There's no penalty or punishment. Then mubah. Mubah, it's allowed, it's okay. Are you encouraged to do it? No. If you do it, do you get a reward? Yes. If you leave it, is there a punishment or penalty? No. So we covered those three so far. Wajib, binding on you. Get a reward. If you do it, you leave it, there's a punishment. Mustahab, recommended, not binding. If you do it, you get a reward. If you leave it, no punishment. Mubah, not binding. You're not encouraged. It's an open door policy. You do it, you get a reward. You leave it, no punishment, no penalty. Then the fourth one. Haram. Marriage is muharram. Haram for you. Something prohibited. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, Allah inna likulli malikin himar. Does not every king have a sanctuary that's only for him? Nobody else can go and share in that sanctuary. Allah inna himar Allah muharrimuh. And is not the sanctuary that you shouldn't go in that belongs to Allah, the prohibited things? Yes. Prohibited, you went in the area Allah told you not. It's like going in an area that the king is only having for himself. You're in trouble. So muharram, haram, how can marriage fall in that category? They said it can fall in the category, like for example, the issue of shigar. Nikah shigar. Shigar, as it comes in the Hadith of Bukhari, Muslim and others, that a man will swap. A man will swap you, his daughter, for your daughter. I come to you, I say, listen, I got a daughter. I'll give you my daughter if you give me your daughter. You say, okay, that's called shigar. This is prohibited. They used to do this in the time of Jahiliyyah. So that type of, remember, nikah means agreement, means joining. So that type of agreement between you and another man, that type of being with that lady who he gave you, who's his daughter, because you swap daughters, is the type of thing that is the category marriage that is haram. Likewise, in muta', temporary marriage, that which the people used to do, and the Prophet ﷺ naha al-muta' yawm al-khaybar ila yawm al-qiyamah. The Prophet on the day of the conquest of Khaybar, when they went to that battle, was the same day that he said there was no more temporary marriage, muta', all the way until the end of judgment. So shigar, swapping daughters. Even some ulama said, or it could be your sister. So I give you my sister because you're the wali if you give me your sister. Or I give you my sister if you give me your daughter. Haram. And, of course, the example of temporary marriage. Person is going to be in America studying for 2 years. Finishes doctorates, 5 years. He marries somebody here. He knows when I finish, I'm jumping on the plane, I'm out. And he says, I'm going to marry you, but, when I finish my term, then I'll let you go. Like a, temporary relationship, part-time lover, haram. So this is how marriage falls in the category of haram. And then you have makruh. Makruh. And that is, it's not haram on you, like we just explained. Shigar, you swap, yani, those who you are in charge of for somebody else's charge, be it daughters, aunts, or whoever. It's not temporary marriage for a particular time with the intention to divorce. That's haram. How could something be makruh? It said marriage that's makruh is that you know that when you get in this relationship, it's going to pull you and make you negligent in some other responsibilities. He said, like, for example, a shoksan aqid walidayn. He is responsible for a lot of things concerning his parents. Imagine you have parents that are up in age. You have to obey them. You have to be to them in an excellent way. You have to, look out for them, give them, attention, service, run errands. And you know that if you get married, it's going to pull from that relationship and responsibility that you have with your parents because it demands a lot of your time. Then they said this is an example of the marriage being makruh. You're going to be negligent. You're going to lose some abilities to fulfill your obligations towards those parents. Then it is yani makruh. Now, so these are 5 categories the marriage falls into. We said again, wajib. You have to do it. You get a reward with it, and if you leave it, it's punishment. Mustahab, recommended, encouraged. If you do it, you get a reward along with it. If you leave it, no penalty, no punishment. Mubah, open door policy. Do it if you like, leave it if you like. You do it, you get a reward. Leave it, no punishment. Then you have muharram. Muharram, the marriage that is prohibited. Something in the nature of it is prohibited. Like the issue of shigar, marrying, swapping your daughters or your aunts who you're in charge without marrying the way of Islam. And then we said that which is makruh is going to pull you away from doing some of your obligations, not all of your obligations. These are the 5 takhlifiyah, ahkam takhlifiyah fi for you may not make it wajib for me. What might make it recommended for me may not make it recommended for the next man. And so on, with regards to the 5 categories of marriage. What time is now?
46.
Okay. And the Maghrib comes in what time?
6 o'clock.
Okay, tight. When we pray, how many minutes after the Adhan here? Maghrib, 10? 5?
5.
Okay, tight. So we'll go up until the time, inshallah, tabarak wa ta'ala, and we'll stop and pray. So does everybody understand those 5 things we went over yesterday?
No.
Okay, tight. Moving forward. We also said that there's a difference of opinion between the scholars which one of the categories is the origin of marriage. We've established a dalil al-asli lil-zawaj min kitab wa sunnah. The basis for marriage to be a topic for us in the religion, we discussed that. Ayat and hadith. Ayat and hadith. We mentioned that. Okay, now we want to know which of the 5 categories marriage is in. We know there's 5 categories. It's either binding, recommended, open door allowed, haram, or disliked. It's the 5 which will. Wajib, mustahab, mubah, muharram, and mada makruh. We just went over that. Now, how do you decide? How do you know which side of the stick that it's upon? How do you know those who said it's wajib, they're right? And we're talking about the origin of marriage. How do you know that those who say that the origin of marriage is not wajib, it's recommended? How do you know that those who say the origin of marriage is just an open door policy? We're not talking about what makes it wajib from person to person, mustahab from person to person. We're talking about how do you know the origin of marriage is wajib or mustahab or just allowed. And if someone brings their argument, how do we rebuttal back and forth? How do we rebuttal back and forth? That's what we will handle after Maghrib. I'll now give an example that will make it wajib, mustahab, mubah, and we just gave 2 examples of what makes it haram or disliked. What will make it wajib for a person? A person, as ulama say, yakhsha al-nafsihi mina ma'ala zina. He's afraid that if he doesn't get married, he's going to end up sleeping with some lady, illicit sex. He's going to be if he's married ever as a Muslim, if he's ever married as a Christian, then he comes to Islam. If he lost his virginity, and then he sleeps with somebody in Islam, he is an adulterer. He is an adulterer. The word zani covers two meanings. Either you're a virgin and you had sex with a lady, you broke your virginity, or you are not a virgin, you have sexual experience, and you just slept with a lady who's not your wife. Or the opposite. You're a boy or a man, you lost your virginity just now, but that was your girlfriend. That you are considered Islamically fornicating because you lost your virginity in the haram. You lost your virginity in the haram. So whoever loses their virginity in the haram, zani, the word in Arabic. Zani or zani or zaniya. For the lady zaniya, for the men zani. The key thing, if you lost your virginity in the haram, fornicated Islam. And if you want a place where they have Islamic jurisprudence, you will be beat 100 times. Tell you, if you lost your virginity, again, and you had sex with somebody after that, who's not your wife for a man, who's not your husband for a lady, you're fornicating. But in Arabic, zani, it's the same word. Now what happens if you already lost your virginity? And then you sleep with somebody, you have sex with somebody who's not your mate, legally. He's not your husband, and she's not your wife. The word zani or zaniya still apply in Arabic, but now the concept is you are adulterer or an adulteress between the male and the female. And that penalty is death. So if a person is afraid that he's going to fall into illegal intercourse, be it he or she, then it becomes wajib. You have to get married. Wajib. Some people, they're not married, but they don't feel like, if I don't get married, I'm just going to, go out and screw. I'm going to get in a relationship. I'm going to go look for a man to have a nice time, because, I need to have sex, so, let me go. No. I need, it's hard, right now to control myself. I know that the first chance I get, if a lady gives me a play, I'm going with her, that's it. Wajib, you have to get married. Mustahab, a person, for example, really doesn't have the desire to be married. He's not impotent. He doesn't have erectile dysfunction, things that are connected to the private part and defects that will be problematic. He has a sex drive, but he's not afraid he's going to fall into zina. He really don't care to be in a relationship. He's cool being alone, but he has the money to take care of, and he wants to get a reward for helping somebody, being a husband. Then it becomes mustahab for him to get married. He's not afraid he's going to fall into a zina, and he has the money, the ability. It becomes recommended for him. Another example of mustahab: a man already has a wife. He already has a wife, and he really doesn't have a need for a second wife. Because some brothers, they have a need for a second wife because maybe the first wife can't bear children. So he wants to have children, so he has a need for a second wife. Or the first wife is becoming old. We mentioned that hadith from last night. So the first wife says, you're still young, you're shaped, healthy, don't divorce me, just get you another wife. This is when it becomes mustahab for a man. Recommended. We gave two examples. Not wajib, recommended to marry. Either because he wants to get the reward, and he has the ability or a circumstance that it is recommended for him to get married again. Tayyib. Then you'll have, and we should add, that person again is not afraid that he's going to fall into intercourse illegally because he's not married. Then you have, we said, the mubah, which is open door policy. You can get married when you want to, if you don't want to, like that. And then we explain already what is an example of nikah muharram, yani muta or shigar, swapping mates, not giving them a dowry, not making, a contract, just, like swapping in jahiliyyah, haram, that type of relationship, muta'ah, temporarily, for a restricted or itemized particular amount of time, haram. And then we said makruha, it's not going to make you leave a responsibility, but it's going to make you be inadequate to fulfill that responsibility right away. Then in that case, marriage will be makruh. Makruh being you shouldn't do it, but if you do it, there's no sin or punishment on you. If you leave it, it's better. And those are the five al-ahkam takhlifiyya fi zawaj, the five categories that marriage can be in that we mentioned yesterday. This is more in detail. And then after Salat al-Maghrib, we will talk about how do you deal with the issue, is the origin of marriage wajib or recommended? How do you sift through the text to find out what is the correct opinion? How do you analyze and come up with that conclusion, looking at the evidence as it relates to the issue of marriage and its origin? Inshallah, ta'ala will handle that after Maghrib, and we will also continue from that point. Any questions or comments around what we just reviewed and covered in detail?
Yeah, Shaykh.
Now,
Then what you're saying that is depends on the circumstance.
hey, what?
Circumstance.
Now, each person is different. What's wajib for you doesn't mean I can say, well, it's wajib for the Shaykh, so it's wajib for me too. No. And if it's, barakallahu fikum, mustahab for me, doesn't mean necessarily for you it's mustahab recommended. It might be recommended for you, but for me, nah, man, it ain't recommended. You better do that. Person got to be educated to these issues in the religion, but it's got to be true with this condition in itself. That's why they said, hasab al-shakhs. It depends. For one person, what might be wajib, it might not be for the other. And we see that in everyday life. I mean, the Shaykh was talking last night, it's a little bit off the subject, but it's relative. What might be good for you clothing-wise might not be necessarily what I have to have. You might feel, I can't wear those shoes, they not named brand. I got to wear, some Timbs or some, subhanAllah, I ain't putting that on my feet. I'm from the Bronx. No disrespect for the brothers in the house, for the Bronx. I might say, listen, man, I don't need no name. Long as they comfortable and they look nice, khalas. So what is for you doesn't necessarily mean that the ruling is going to be, or the occasional category that I choose is going to be the same. This is the same thing with wajib. For one person is wajib, why? Because he knows I'm going to fall into a zina. I'm going to fall. I got to get married. And the ulama said, this is for a guy who's not married. This is not the case for a guy who's married and he says, I got to get a second wife because I'm going to fall into zina. No. Having the issue of a wife is to keep you from being like that. So you can't use methna, thulat, ruba, 2, 3, or 4 for I got to get another wife. It's hard. Lie. The first wife is the objective of keeping your private parts in the halal. Cannot say, well, it's my right, I have to get another one because, subhanAllah, my one wife don't satisfy me. So what, she ain't got no private part? What do you mean she don't satisfy you? She dead? She don't move? If it's the issue, she don't have a sex drive, maybe, yani, Barakallahu fikum, she have some issue that you and she both agree it's a problem, but she say, don't divorce me, just get another wife. Then in that case, now this guy's right saying, it's wajib for me to get a second wife. But everybody who wants to get a second wife, he can't say, I have to get a second wife because it's difficult, it's hard for me, No, your wife that's pleasing to you and you're able to have sexual intercourse with her is enough for you in the deen of Allah Ta'ala. That's what it was telling him. He didn't say if you don't have the ability, yani, then do this and that. He said if you don't have the ability, fast. That's for the guy who can't get married. He doesn't have a mahram to give the lady. He can't afford to give her anything. And Shaykh Tamini said, you got to give the lady her mahram. He said, but your risk, that's in the hands of Allah. So in other words, I got enough to give her now to get married, but Allah knows what tomorrow brings. So you ain't got to have $50,000 in the bank to say, I can give her a mahar and take care of her. No. Because from the issue of increasement in your wealth is marriage. And I don't want to lose my point. I'll come back to that. I'm going to stay there. But the point is that when you have a wife, that's what Sallam said, if you see something that excites you, he didn't say, marry a second, third, or fourth. No, he said, run home to your wife. Because that is the cure. Why you still have to lower the gates. But if you got a wife, then you looking all over the place. Every time you see something, damn, talk to the Lord. Or like some brothers that say, man, subhanAllah, did you see that? It would have been that. Look at that. How is it haram? You got one look, you're not blameworthy. It still affects your heart.
Right.
Even though you're not blameworthy because the nature of the eyes is to see, when you see that thing, she got a low-cut shirt. She got this, that, and the third. And I don't want to be graphic because that's haram too. You don't need to describe all of that to get the picture. But once you get that look, you got to look away as best you can without running into something, falling off the sidewalk. But everybody knows you have a look that's natural, you have a look that's exciting, and you have a look for lust. You're looking at it because you wish you could be in the bed right now with her. Of course your wife not going to be enough for you. Of course, if you don't run home to her, you're going to have a problem. But the shaitan make you think the solution is, I just get another wife. Nope. The ulama said the reason the prophet didn't say, run home and get another wife when you see something that excites you. He said, go home to your wife because she got the same thing that you looking at that ain't your wife, she got.
All right.
You understand me? So the point is, what will make it wajib for a man might not make it wajib for another man. Again, we said if the lady, for example, can't bear children, then it becomes, and she doesn't want to be divorced, because this is the reason the man get out the marriage. But they love one another. He loved her, she loved him. He said, listen, then get you another wife. Now it's wajib for that man. Because one of the reasons for marriage is to get offspring. How you going to do that without a mate? But a guy who don't have that problem, you know what I'm saying? Or the wife can't bear, or she didn't bear, but the man said, that's no problem. I don't, it's okay if I have kids or not. Then it ain't wajib for him to say, well, I got to get another wife. You know what I'm saying? The man, he got a wife, sex drive different. His is high, hers is medium. He can't say, well, I need another wife because he got a high sex drive. No, he got to tell her, eat better, exercise, take some herbs, bring your libido up the park. How could I? Sahih. Can't say, oh, I need another one because it's hard. Nah. Lower your gaze. Do what it takes. Work together. But what makes it wajib for one doesn't make it necessarily wajib for the next. You understand?
So then, Shaikh, what you're saying is that you just can't take another wife without good reason.
Say that one more time.
You can't take another wife if you have a wife. you can't take the second one or the third one or the fourth without having a justified reason.
Exactly, a justified reason from the Sharia.
No.
Not a justified, because the cat make up his own justification and they don't pay out until their judgment. He justifying right now in the dark if he on Facebook. Yeah, and they're gonna use me. Yeah, the Shaikh said in the dark slide. Have to be justified by the Sharia. Allah has made all of the justifications and reasons. Now, so that answers the question about what's the issue of wajib from one person to another. It varies. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a'lam. And Allah is the best know. Any more questions before we close with Salat al-Maghrib? On top. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. بارك الله فيكم.
Excuse me, are you going to be here tomorrow too?
I'll be here until 2 o'clock. Check out time in the hotel. Then I'm going to Beacon to be with Jamaat there and the family of Abdurrahim, who was Jamil. He's getting married tomorrow. But I don't have any schedule for planning of talking and so forth. This program will end tonight. And inshallah ta'ala, we will look at resuming Bithillah maybe in December. During the Christmas break, I'll come back because this is going to take a minute. You're not going to get this in one sitting. There ain't no fast around. You get it at the drive-through window. This is going to take a minute. You know, it's that serious, that detail, and we ask Allah for His help.